Guys, so I'm in the greenhouse on a very hot August day, almost 100 degrees today. But what I'm doing today is making Wicking Bucket 2.0, or the ultimate wicking bucket. So what you're going to need for this is 2 5-gallon buckets. You're going to need a tool to cut through the bottom of the bucket, either this hot tool, this soldering pin, or a drill bit with a small bit to get through the bottom of that bucket. You're going to need a paddle bit to secure the PVC. You're going to need thick wall Schedule 40 3/4 inch PVC, 2 pieces. You're going to need a U-bolt to stabilize the PVC. You're going to need a marker to mark exactly where to put the holes for the PVC, and to make it easy to cut the PVC, a PVC cutting tool like this. So let's get started, and I'll put everything together. I think I've got everything assembled, so we can get started right now. Okay guys, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drill the 2 main holes that the PVC is going to go through, and you want it as close to the edge of the bucket as possible. Just try to round it off. This is a very brittle bucket because it's very old. Make sure you can still see it there. And we're going to go straight across to the other side. Try not to do too much excess damage here. Okay, so this is not the newest bucket, so it is a little bit on the brittle side. I think it would have cut better with my paddle bit. It'd probably been a lot cleaner cut. But let's put some drainage holes. We're going to put about maybe 10, 15 holes in here. Okay, now we have our holes. We're going to clean the plastic up. Make sure there's no plastic inside the bucket. Make sure you can see that. We have our holes drilled there. Small holes to allow the water to wick. 2 larger holes for the PVC. And I'm going to back the camera off so you can see exactly what's happening here. Okay, let me get back up to the... Okay, so our primary bucket that's going to hold the water this is our bottom bucket right here. Now, this bucket is where our plant's going to live, and it's going to be allowed to wick water up to the base of the bucket. We're going to put that in there, but at the same time, I'm going to put a piece of PVC in to prevent the bucket from going beyond where I want it to go. So it's really tight, and I'm putting a lot of pressure on it, so it's wedged in there. Also, we can put cloth in the sides to prevent any insects from going in, or we can drop some mosquito bits in there. But that is how the 2 buckets come together. And even with a lot of weight on it, filled with dirt, it's still going to stay stable like that. Now we're going to add our 2 pieces of PVC. Okay, so I'm going to try to explain every component of the PVC. We have a T, a 3/4 T, a 3/4 elbow, 2 short pieces of PVC. This is the watering, this is the water which you're going to put your water in that goes into the reservoir. So if you've got a container like this, you can easily fill it, and you'll know it's full because the water amount is going to reach really close to the edge. If you feel like there's too much water in there, you can drill a hole a little bit further down, but you don't want to go too far because you want there to be water in the bottom of the wicking bucket. This piece of PVC has stabilized the bucket so it will not go any further. The top of the PVC has 2 3/4 90s, and the reason this bar is across, we want to tie a string here so our tomato, cucumber, what other climbing vegetable we put in here will go up, and it'll have a support in the middle, so that way we will have a very large tomato, cucumber, or whatever kind of climbing produce we want to do with this ultimate wicking bucket. Okay, guys, I'm going to drill the holes for the U-bolt, and I've already pre-selected the spots based upon the width. Okay, let's see if that fits. Gonna get our U-bolt, our stabilization here. Push it through the bucket. It's gonna be a little bit tight. Just come over just a little bit. Okay. Now, there's our stabilization. We're going to put the bolts on, or the nuts on. Put that in place. Tighten these down. And I'll have to come back and tighten this up with a small wrench. But I'm just doing this to make sure it's stable. And if we can grab that there, it's a little small for the hands. Okay. Now that, you could use two of these. You could use one on each side. But I think one is enough to stabilize it because it's very, and also the soil in there is going to be stabilizing it. I'm going to show you what it looks like from inside the bucket and show you exactly how it looks. Now, as you can see here, there's two pieces of PVC. Our 3/4 PVC is going all the way to the bottom of the bucket. We have our stabilization U-bolt here, our holes drilled so the wicking action can come up through the bucket. If we want to, and I think I am going to do this, I'm going to drill a hole on the exterior bucket so the water level stays a little bit closer to the bottom of the bucket. I don't want the water level all the way up to about here where it would be on the bucket. I think that would be too high. So I'm going to drop it down, and just the bottom, maybe 10% of the bucket will be constantly in moisture. So let me do that. Okay, and we're going to drill probably a little bit further down. So this bucket right here will not fill all the way up to the top because whatever water levels in here is going to also be in the interior bucket. So I'm going to just drop down right below this lip. Look and see if that looks about right. Maybe a little bit further down. Put two drain holes in case one gets stopped up. All right. And so we've got pretty much almost everything in place, and we'll go on to the next step. Okay, guys, I think I want a secondary U-bolt on the opposite side because I just feel like it's going to stabilize it better. So I'm going to put that right there and try to get a bead on exactly where those 2 points are going to need to come through. A little bit tricky there. Okay, I'm going to drill that. We'll have a secondary U-bolt, and I think that's just going to add more stability to it. And it also separates it a little bit better. I just like it better, I think. We're going to drill those out. Okay, and let me find the bolts and the other pieces to this. Okay, let's put that through. This one may be a little bit harder to get through because this is not exactly the same size as the first. Let's try that again. Get that through the a little bit tight fit there. Let's see if we can. I just want to do this for added stability because I know that. Let's put in our 2 nuts on there, and I probably need to come back and bring in a couple more because I don't think it's going to secure it. I think we're going to run out of threading. I'm going to put another couple on there so we can further stabilize it. Let's do that. All right, so I found a couple of old bolts, old nuts that I can put on this. So we're going to tighten that down. Hopefully that will secure, and I'll need to tighten that up a little bit later just to make sure it's really tight. I'm just doing this basically for demonstration purposes now, so you can see how this fits together. That really holds it nicely. All right, that looks good. Now we have the mechanism for growth there, and there's one other thing I'm going to need to do before putting the string on, so I will pause for a second. Okay, so at the very bottom of the bucket, we're going to tie a string. We're going to run it through the bottom and run it back out directly in the center. So we're going to need 2 holes right in the center of the bucket. And And that way, as the string runs up to the top of it'll be directly in the center from the soil where we plant the tomato or cucumber or whatever other vegetable we want to put in there. So that way we'll have a string attached to the top and the bottom for stability. Okay, so we brought the string out. We're going to run it back in. We're going to tie this off and we'll stand the bucket back up and we'll be ready to move on to the next step. Okay, so we've tied our string off to the bottom of the bucket and we're going to run that to the top of the PVC and we'll have a very stable trellis for the tomato to grow on. I don't think the tomatoes will grow on the PVC. It's just too slick and too slippery. So you need something that has a little bit of grip to it that the vine can actually grow up and attach itself to. So that's why we're using the string and not the PVC for the plant to grow on. Okay guys, so now we're going to attach the string to the top of our PVC. So we kind of have to make an estimation, or at least try our best to figure out where this thing needs to go to. I'm going to wrap it over the top. I'm going to cut it. To let it drop. These scissors are in terrible shape. All right. Now I'm going to take it and tie it at the top temporarily. Make sure we've got a lot of tension there. All right, guys, we are still trying to attach this to the top, and you can see how tall this trellis is. And I'm almost 6 foot, right around 6 foot, and it is still very hard to reach the top of it. So I'm just going to tie this string off. Make sure it's nice and tight. Give the tomato to something to grow on. And so it's not perfectly the way I'd like it, but pretty good. Okay, and I'm using a couple of towels here in the base, just some old towels that are clean. And I'm going to put that in the bottom of the bucket to prevent any dirt from getting through any of those holes, but still allow water to find its way through and keep the soil moist. And this would also work if you had some landscape fabric, but I just had some old towels. So our soil potting medium is going to rest right on top of those. And if you want to keep mosquitoes out, you can have them. If you don't have the mosquito bits, you can just put a towel in the side there, and that can keep any insects from finding their way into that water. It's just such a tight fit there. And of course, you'd want to plug that too with maybe something. So that is how it's going to work. And I'm going to come back and put our tomato in there. Move on from there. All right, we're going to add our potting soil. Just carefully try not to make the biggest mess you can imagine, but it's probably going to happen. All right, compress that down. And again, that adds to the stability of the bucket. And I'm going to top this, once I get the tomato planted, I'm going to top it with some black cow manure. So you can see our tomato will go over to one side. It's an indeterminate, so this thing will grow completely up there and be at its favorite height once it reaches the top. And there's our tomato. We may have to sacrifice one side of the tomato. It looks like we've got really too much coming out of this, but we'll leave it like that for now. Compress that down in the soil. Potting mix. Okay, and I'm going to come back and put in some black cow on top. We'll top this with some composted black cow manure. And as a lot of people know, the deeper you plant a tomato, the better, because the fine hairs you see on the side of the stems will actually become roots. And so that will definitely help the tomato plant. And the last thing I'm going to add, I'm going to top this with a top dressing of pine bark, help it hold in even more moisture. Even though we have a wicking bucket, it's good to do this because I like making sure the plant doesn't dehydrate from above if the sun gets too hot. And there you have it. Next step is to fill And that's what we'll be doing next. Hey guys, so that is the final end result of the wicking bucket. As you can see, the string is very taut. You can see it moving there. And so this is the watering spout. It's easy to water. I've got a towel stuffed into where any insects might try to get in. You can put an end cap, a PVC end cap right here. If you want to stop that, you don't have to glue it, just put it on there. You can also use a cup. And so it is ready to go out in the garden. If nighttime temperatures drop below 50 degrees, I can bring it inside, take it back out in the daytime. So it might actually make it to December before I have to permanently bring it into the greenhouse. So it's, I would say it's about 7.5 feet tall, almost 8 feet. So it's got a lot of room for this tomato to grow up. You can use zip ties as it grows, or you can use some of the tomato clamps, which I'll show you in a future video when we're talking about tomato growth and pruning. So anyways, this is what I call the ultimate wicking bucket, or Wicking Bucket 2.0. Hey guys, thanks for watching. I hope you have a great day, and please like and subscribe if you found something useful in the video. Thanks. Have a great day.